What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about my picks and predictions for the top 25 rankings. I don't preferably like the AP poll. I think it's pretty garbage and biased to like a very unhealthy degree. Like Georgia has been number one for a long time, and they haven't played anybody. Same with Michigan. They've played. I don't think Michigan's played a single ranked team in the entire season, and they're number two. So I'm going to make my own picks and prediction for the upcoming top 25 poll. And we're going to go one by one. We're going to start from 25, go down to number one, and then I'm going to have some honorable mentions mixed in here just to talk about like different teams that could possibly be in the top 25. And we'll go over a little bit about what happened over the weekend. Keep going on to the top 25 here. First team we have 25, we have Arizona. I know in previous videos I've talked crap about Arizona, but Arizona has proven that they can play. I was looking at their ranking, their schedules, and all that stuff, and they have 3 losses. I think they're probably one of the best 3-loss teams. They're better than some of the 2-loss teams, as well as they have beaten ranked opponents. They've gone toe-to-toe with some of the top 10 opponents like Washington, UFC. Their third loss was to Mississippi State early in the year, which is so unlucky. If they would have beat Mississippi State, they would have only 2 losses. So I have them at 25. I have them over James Madison. James Madison isn't bowl eligible, so I don't think the playoff committee is going to put teams that aren't bowl eligible in the top 25. So I'm going to put Arizona here instead of James Madison. Maybe next year when James Madison becomes bowl eligible, they'll continue this undefeated track. The next team we have is Tulane. Tulane only has 1 loss. They are one of the group of 5 teams of all time. I think Tulane right now, if they would have beat Ole Miss, they could have been a pretty good high-ranking team, but their only loss is Ole Miss, and it wasn't like they got blown out by Ole Miss. So I think them being X1, them sitting at 24, is really good for their program, really good for their team. I don't think they're going to move from this range between 23, 24, maybe 22, even if they were to win out. And it's unfortunate. It's just that their schedule isn't very strong. The next team we have is USC. Unfortunately enough, I almost put USC off this list, and then I realized they had 2 losses, and I was like, oh, they didn't lose to Cal. They barely beat California by like 1 point. So and that really showed that USC just does not have any defense. Their offense was powerful, but their defense just was not it. Letting Cal score so many points is just embarrassing. USC has to figure something out. But I have them at 23. They are a 2-loss team, and it's not like they're terrible. They have beaten ranked teams. They went toe-to-toe with Arizona. Arizona has been pretty good this year. The next team is North Carolina. They are coming off of a loss against Georgia Tech. North Carolina was up that game. And I like thought they were just gonna win out. I was like on a hike watching, kind of like looking at the scores, and I was like, oh cool. And then I was like, I lost service, and then came back and they lost to Georgia Tech. And I was like, what the heck happened? And it's just North Carolina just cannot finish games. They're just struggling right now on both ends of the ball, where they just can't. They go up and then they just let them come back. It was kind of like what Florida State was going through at the beginning of the season with like Boston College and things like that. But North Carolina now is like pretty much out of contention for the ACC title game. Louisville is still X1. So Louisville, all they have to do is win out. They beat Duke, and then they can play against Florida State in the ACC title game. Next pick, we have Kansas. Upset alert. Kansas coming in here. X2 beating number 6 undefeated Oklahoma. Congratulations. Welcome back to the top 25 in my opinion. And they are probably one of the better 2-loss teams in this like stretch here. I know there are some better ones like coming up, but Kansas has shown that they can beat top tier opponents. But they do lose to like teams they should beat. They beat teams that they shouldn't beat. But that's just the way of the land when it comes to college sports. Next we have here is Utah, number 20, coming off a loss. They got destroyed. Let's just keep it lightly here. They got destroyed by Oregon, and it was just embarrassing for the Utah Utes. I had hopes on the Utah would just like win out. They would prove that they could beat ranked opponents, and they could prove they could beat top tier. But Oregon is just so strong. I was kind of having doubts on Oregon. But Oregon has proven that they could dominate ranked teams, high-caliber ranked teams. I'm pretty sure the Utes were 13th overall, so it wasn't like they were just like some bad ranked team. And unfortunately, Utes are pretty much out of contention for the Pac-12 championship game. They're definitely out of contention for the national title game, but they can probably try to compete for a good bowl game here in the future. Next, we have UCLA. I have UCLA up here at number 19. I know UCLA lost to Utah. I know that they would have the tiebreaker if they were to come up against each other, but I still think UCLA is a better football team than Utah. Utah barely beat them. It was 14-7. It was a very close game, but I have UCLA above them just because Utah is the most recent loss. UCLA is still winning. So we're just going to go with that, and you could argue about it in the comments. Number 18, we have Air Force. Air Force is undefeated. They're the best Group of 5 team on this list. I've said in the future that I don't think Air Force is going to get into the top 15 at all. They're never going to move up that far. I think this will be around the farthest they go. I could still see them farther back. I could see like it goes Air Force 20, UCLA 19, and then Utah 18. But Utah lost really bad to Oregon, so they have to like show that they have lost really bad to Oregon. And Air Force Kid is going to be undefeated. I think the rest of their schedule is pretty light. And Air Force is the better team this year. And it's unfortunate they won't be able to compete for the national title game, but it's just the way the cookie crumbles when your conference is not seen as very good. The next team we have here is Oregon State. Oh my gosh, Oregon State losing to University of Arizona. And that's why I have University of Arizona on this list in first place, because they just upset after upset, overtime after overtime. Oregon State was my team to win the Pac-12, the sleeper team, the team who was forgotten by the Power 5 conferences. But they're still top 25. They'll be 17. They have a good team. They have a good offense. I feel like their coach should have kicked the field goal at the end of the first half and not run fat fake. It would have made the game seem closer, but we don't know what would have happened if the score was slightly different coming into the second half. But, that was a blunder that definitely could have been fixed. Next team we have here is Tennessee. Tennessee, the Volunteers, coming in at 16. I don't have much to say about Tennessee. They're an X2 team that I have doubts on, but they continuously win games. But they did lose pretty bad to Alabama. So I'm not putting them too high up the ladder, but I'm definitely not putting them too far. They're kind of like that middle-of-the-road kind of team when it comes to the top 25. They're good, but then when they play good teams, they don't do very well. So it's kind of like, let's see where the rest of the season goes. So we'll put them right in the middle and see if they lose or win. Next, top 15 teams. They've been X2 for a while. We have Notre Dame. Notre Dame is going to be number 15 on this list. And the reason they're not any higher is because there's going to be a team on there that they lost to that only has one loss. And I still think that LSU is the best 2-loss team on this list. So LSU is going to be next. Boom. But this is not the team that Notre Dame lost to. That goes to Louisville. So I threw all three of them at the same time because it's kind of like all three of them have discussions. Louisville dominating against Duke. LSU just plays bad teams. They had Army like a week ago, just dominated. Then they had a bye week. Notre Dame coming off a win, easy time. Pittsburgh, I know Pittsburgh beat Louisville, then Louisville beat Notre Dame, full circle. But I have Louisville above. They are a 1-loss team. All these other teams are 2 losses, so I'm just going to give Louisville the benefit of the doubt for their 1 loss. And they did beat Notre Dame. So moving on to number 9 through 12, we have at 12, we have Missouri. Missouri is another 1-loss team that everyone sleeps on, but Missouri has proven that they can continue winning games, winning. Continue winning games, winning. So I have them at 12. I want to put them in like the top 10, but there are some better teams, some better notable teams that just like have proven they can play at a very high level. Missouri's only lost to LSU, which was like Missouri's like only ranked win. So they're going to sit at 12 until they can prove that they can play. I think they play at Georgia this year, so that'll be a great game to see. Next 1-loss team we have is Ole Miss. Ole Miss's only loss is to Alabama earlier this year, but they have beat LSU, and I have LSU pretty high. So Ole Miss has proven they can play at the top talent. And I know they lost to Alabama. Alabama was flying under the radar for most of the year after that loss to Texas. Everyone forgot about them. They're like, oh, they're barely beating South Florida, barely doing this. But they're still X1, and as you see, they're still not technically on the list yet. So it'll be very interesting to see where I put them. And number 10, we have Oklahoma coming off that loss against Kansas. Upset alert, upset alert. And I put them down. I put them down below Texas just because of the most recent loss. And the way most of the playoff committee goes by is the most recent losses. They do take. I don't know if their algorithm takes into fact the previous games, but they mostly take into account for their most recent games. So Oklahoma will be behind Texas until we see otherwise. But I can't see Oklahoma moving down to 10 or 9. Maybe Texas moves back to 9 and Oklahoma. Maybe Texas moves back to 10 and Oklahoma's at 9. But right now I have 9 at Penn State. The Nittany Lions, one of the best defenses in the league. I know they lost to Ohio State, but that was a dogfight for majority of that game. And Penn State, they haven't really played anybody notable other than Ohio State. So moving them up farther past number 9, I couldn't really justify, especially seeing the next 4 lineup. And that is, we have Texas. Texas has some good wins under their belt. They beat Alabama. They lost to Oklahoma. That was a close game, though. So that's why I had them at 8. And I don't think Texas deserves to lose Capital because Oklahoma decided to lose Kansas late in the season. Number 7, I have Oregon, the dominating force. Oregon just beat the Utes. But the problem with that is I don't have Oregon better than Alabama. I have Alabama higher. Alabama has some very notable wins. I know they lost early to Texas, but Alabama is just continuously playing at a high level. And the SEC is definitely better than the Big 12. So Alabama is definitely just going to go skip ahead. And I know that could seem like it's about, Alabama always getting love, always getting love. I've been hating on Alabama this whole season, but I can't deny Alabama has a good offense and a good program that has developed over the course of the season and getting better every week. Number 5, we have Washington. Problem with Washington is that they like to keep games where they shouldn't be. They should be dominating teams. They shouldn't be letting teams stick around. And that's why they're at number 5. I have them as one of the lowest of the undefeateds just because they like to let teams stick around too long where it just seems like such a close game. I know you could say that about Ohio State, but Ohio State eventually breaks away. Washington likes to just keep them around for a while. Honorable mentions. These are honorable mentions. I know you're going to say Iowa's in there because of this. No, all of these honorable mentions are just Power 5 teams that are X2. These are the only Power 5 teams left that are X2. Moving on to the top 4, the place you guys want to see playoff predictions, where it's going to be at. We all know what the top 4 is, like in case of teams, because we've all seen it for the entire year. Number 4, we have Michigan. I know we're going to have up in arms, but, the Spygate, Astros, Michigan. Michigan. I only put Michigan at number 4 because they haven't played anybody. They've been dominating bad teams, and that you don't get rewarded for dominating bad teams. You get rewarded for playing good teams. So Michigan's going to be at number 4 just because they haven't played a single ranked opponent this entire season, and all the teams they do play are bad. Number 3, we have Georgia. I know this is going to be a hot take, but Georgia also hasn't really played anybody. I had played one ranked team all year. And yes, they've beat the crap out of bad teams or mostly bad teams. But they're in the same boat as Michigan. But I do put Georgia over because they have played a ranked team and they have beaten ranked opponents. Michigan is not. And now you're probably wondering, where is Ohio State? Where is FSU? Who is number 1 on this list? We have at number 2, Florida State. Florida State has beaten multiple ranked opponents, has shown that they can play at the highest level. I know there was that close game against Boston College, but that was really early in the year, and we're now late in the year, and they have proven they can play at the highest level. And, since we already know, Ohio State Buckeyes number 1. They beat Penn State, best defense in the league at the time. And they've beaten other high-caliber teams like Notre Dame. That's 2 top 10 wins under their belt versus the previous 3 don't have multiple top 10 wins. So I have Ohio State being number. They have one of the best defenses in the league. They have one of offenses of all time. I can't say they're one of the best offenses, but they do have one of the best defense. They have one of the best receivers in the league. And that receiver goes crazy. Watching that game against Wisconsin, it was really close. And then Marvin Harris Jr. just started going lights out. not missing catches, making horrendous grabs. I think the quarterback situation at Ohio State's a very iffy one, but their defense definitely holds their own and is one of the best in the league. So I have them at number 1 just because they have some of the best wins of the group of undefeateds, and then FSU is probably the second best wins, and then, so on and so forth. The problem with Washington is they like to keep teams in the game, and Washington hasn't played their stretch of top opponents just yet. They still have to play those teams coming up. They have that win against Oregon, but they almost lost to ASU, so there's that as well. It's gonna be it for this is gonna be it for this top 25 prediction for this upcoming season. Please leave a like, subscribe if you like more content like this. Please put it in the comments below if you don't really like my list and you want to put your own list in the comments. Please, I'm open for discussion. I'm always down to talk. Look at previous videos. I talk to almost every single comment that is commented. Please be respectful, and that's gonna be it. Peace.